My name is Jonathan Hicks and today we're doing Bodmas! Or is it Bidmas? Bodmas, Bidmas, well, it's more or less the same kind of thing. Let me start with an example to show you what it is. It's much easier to explain this topic with an example and then you should get the hang of it. So imagine I asked you to work out 2 plus 3 times 4. Seems fairly simple. 2 plus 3 is 5. Times that by 4 you get 20. Or do you? Because 3 times 4 is 12. And add that to 2. 12 plus 2 would give you 14. So maybe the answer is 14. Is it 20? Or is it 14? Now this is a bit of an issue, as hopefully you can see. I ask my classes when I teach maths every year to work out what this is just in their head and then sort of call out the answers, and about half the class tend to go for 20 and the other half of the class tend to go for 14. Now there's no great reason to say that one thing is better than the other. You know, you can see the maths is correct in both cases. 2 plus 3 is 5, and if you times that by 4 you do get 20. But we can't have such a simple sum like this and have half the people getting one answer and half the people getting a different answer all the time. We need to agree on one way of doing this. Doesn't really matter which way we go for, as long as we all do it the same way. Again, it's a bit like driving your car on the road. It doesn't really matter if you drive on the left hand side or the right hand side, as long as everyone drives on the same side, otherwise you'll have an accident. And Bodmas or Bidmas is the order that you should work these things out in. So each of the letters in the word stand for something. It's an acronym, so I'll write it up here perhaps. So I prefer Bodmas personally, that's what I'll go with, but I'll explain the Bidmas thing as well. So Bodmas. So B, many of you will be familiar with this already. B stands for brackets. So this, as I say, is in the order you need to work it out. So you always have to work out brackets first. O stands for other. Now if you're doing Bidmas, you have an I here instead of an O. And the I would stand for indices or powers. The other actually includes all kinds of other things as well. It's not just indices that you can get here. You can get exponentials, trig functions, logs. There are a whole raft of different things that you might have to work out here. So it includes indices, but that's why I prefer Bodmas rather than Bidmas, because strictly speaking it is other. It's anything other than everything else that appears in the list here. So the rest of these most people can guess fairly easily. D stands for division. M is obviously multiplication. And then finally you finish with addition and subtraction. So that's Bodmas. Those are what they stand for. And as I say, this tells you the order in which you should work these things out. So you should do brackets first. I wouldn't worry too much about the other things for now, but then you do division and multiplication, addition and subtraction. Now I say you do it in that order. Strictly speaking, that's not true. Division and multiplication come together as a pair. So I'm just going to put a box around those two. You don't necessarily do division before multiplication. You do all your division and multiplication before any of this stuff, but you do them together and you just work left to right. Addition and subtraction then also come together as a pair. So you don't necessarily do your addition before your subtraction. You do all your addition and subtraction together, working left to right. I'll give you some examples of this in a minute. So if we go back to our initial problem here, what order should we do these things in? Well, we should do brackets first. We don't have any brackets, so we don't need to worry about that. Then anything else, which we also don't need to worry about. But then we come on to division and multiplication. Now we need to do all the division and multiplication. No addition or subtraction, just division and multiplication. And we've only got one multiplication thing here, so you should work the 3 times the 4 out first. So that will give you 12. And then finally, you do any addition or subtraction. So the 12 then gets added to the 2. So the correct answer, if you like, is actually 14, not 20. As I say, there's no real reason for saying that this is wrong, it's just that we all need to agree. And this is the order that everybody's agreed on, so we have to do the same thing. So you should not write 20 for that one, you should put 14. 2 plus 3 times 4 is 14. because 3 fours are 12, and 2 plus 12 gives you 14. All right, I'll do a few more examples so you sort of see how it works. But as long as you follow the order, it's really very easy. The maths in this case, the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, tend to be very simple when they ask you these kinds of questions. So let's have 10 minus 6 divided by 2 plus 5. So, brackets, we don't have any brackets. Other, there's nothing else, we've just got division, addition and subtraction. So we've got to do the division first. So the 6 divided by 2 we've got to work out first. And the way I recommend you lay these out is you write out the whole thing again, replacing the bit that you're going to work out with what the answer is. So in this case, the 6 divided by 2 is going to become a 3. So you replace the 6 divided by 2 with a 3. The other bits on either side you don't change. So it's going to be 10 minus 6 divided by 2 plus 5. Then we come on to the next things. So addition and subtraction. And as I say, you don't do the addition before the subtraction. It's not 3 plus 5. You do addition and subtraction together. They come as a pair and you work left to right. So it's 10 minus 3, which gives you 7. Then add the 5 to it, which gives you 12. So 10 minus 6 divided by 2 plus 5 gives you 12. All right, let's try another one. We'll have some brackets this time. So 4 times 3 plus 7 divided by 2. So we'll work out the brackets first of all. So it doesn't matter what kind of thing is in the brackets. If you've got brackets, you've got to do the inside bit first. Multiplication and division would come before addition normally, but the brackets means you must do this bit first. So 3 plus 7 is going to become 10, and the other things aren't going to change. I'm going to leave those exactly as they are. So it's 4 times 3 plus 7, which is 10, divided by 2. Now I can do division and multiplication, and I do them together, working left to right. Again, don't do the division before the multiplication. Work left to right. So 4 times 10 will give me 40, divided by 2 gives me 20. So my final answer in this case is 20. All right, so let's try a slightly harder one. Let's have 6 minus 4 times 3 plus 8 divided by 8. So we've got all of your operations in there. So brackets first. 6 minus 4 is 2. And as tempting as it might be, don't work out anything else on this line yet. Just do one step at a time. So brackets first. The rest of it, the times by 3 plus the 8 divided by the other 8, just leave all that alone. All you've done is work out the brackets. Now you can do division and multiplication. There's no other things in here. So we're going to do division and multiplication. We're going to do them together, working left to right. The only thing we're not going to do is the addition. So 2 times 3 becomes 6. We're not going to do the addition, leave that alone. And the 8 divided by 8, well, anything divided by itself is 1. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. Now we come on to the final step. You've got addition and subtraction. We've only got addition in this case, so you just work it out. 6 plus 1 gives you 7. So that complicated mess up there just works out to be 7. All right, one final example then, involving some other things. At this stage, all you really need to worry about is powers. Nothing else is ever going to appear in this. But it's very straightforward to do. So if you've got 3 times 4 plus 2 squared, the key thing is you've got to work out the powers, the indices, the other things, before you work out the multiplication or addition. So the 2 squared you've got to work out before anything else. So it's going to be 3 times 4 plus 4, because 2 squared, 2 times 2, gives you 4. Then you do multiplication. That's going to happen before addition. 3 times 4 is 12. Don't mess with the plus 4, leave that alone. And finally, 12 plus 4 gives you 16. So powers, it's usually fairly obvious with powers. You can see they're kind of right in there. Don't mess with the powers. Just do those first. Don't mix them with anything else. And then follow the rest of the operations. The key thing to remember with Bodmas is, apart from the fact that that's the order, division and multiplication must come together as a pair. You work left to right. The same with addition and subtraction. You don't necessarily do the addition before the subtraction. They come together as a pair and you work left to right.